Hi friends, happy Monday. So we are on week 4 of the short version of the 12-week starting over program, which I am working alongside my employees. And each week I have been giving just one of the topics for each week with a homework assignment. So in week 1, we really focused on getting back in touch with our inner child and some of the activities we like to do as a kid. Week 2, we really honed in on our personal core values. And then in week 3, we did shadow work, which is kind of facing our darker side and acknowledging some of our habits and traits that are a little more undesirable. So this week, we are talking about coping with change. So for me personally, in my first year of recovery, second year of recovery, even third year in recovery, and today, I have to be aware of my coping mechanisms. So before I got into sobriety, and with this 12-week starting over program, you could be trying to give up anything from codependency, not texting that toxic ex. It could be moving on from an old job. Maybe you got laid off and it has been really difficult for you because you were at that company for a long time and you are in transition. It can be a divorce. So for me personally, whenever I started, subconsciously, I didn't mean to create this 12-week starting over program. I just created it based on my own experience of trying to get past my unhealthy coping mechanism of alcoholism. So I was drinking to numb my feelings, basically, to escape my reality. For me, it was not very easy to have any type of confrontation. It wasn't easy for me to stand firm in some of my beliefs and truths in running my business. It wasn't easy for me to look at the numbers and set boundaries, all of those things. None of those things were easy for me. So it was a lot easier for me to cope with drinking so I could avoid it and not face any of those things. Well, that obviously made life harder as time went on. So today I have to really work on understanding and realizing what not only my triggers, but what are my coping mechanisms. Not just unhealthy, but healthy. So our homework assignment for this past week, and I want to remind you that whenever we do this 12-week starting over program, usually each video that we have is about 45 minutes long. So I try to cram something into a short 10-minute or less video. So I do want you to know that you're not getting the full effect, but I'm doing the best that I can. So, for me, my unhealthy coping mechanisms look a little less obvious and destructive. So before, it could be anything from drinking to shouting, getting like having big outbursts. It could be really binge eating. It could have even been on the opposite end of it before I really was diving deep into alcoholism. I had some unhealthy coping mechanisms of starving myself because I was working in the news industry and I was comparing myself to others. But today, my coping mechanisms, the unhealthy ones, can look something like, as simple as isolation, kind of shutting off from everybody, which I know that it's very important for me to connect with people. And so I have to realize when I'm doing those things. Another unhealthy coping mechanism for me can be getting really nitpicky with employees or managers at my company because I'm feeling like I'm getting this heightened sense of fear and I'm like honing in on being nitpicky and micromanaging because it's making me feel more in control in that moment. That's not good either. That prolongs my results and success because that's just not good for anybody, including me or my employees. And then another thing that I recognize in myself, and this is the one that's very difficult for me, is future tripping, I guess you could call it. So basically predicting the future worst case scenario so I can go ahead and prepare for it, because that makes me feel more in control. It can be anything. It can be anything. It can be me going ahead and predicting that somebody's mad at me and here's how they're going to react and here's what I'm going to do when they do that. And that's just completely unhealthy. I can even get worried about somebody that I care about and already basically in my mind put them in the grave because of a relapse that hasn't even happened yet. But because of my shadow work that I did the week prior to this, I know that that's just trauma of me unexpectedly losing my dad and dealing with that grief. And that's one thing that I found that I have to deal with a lot lately over the last year is worst case scenario, like being afraid that somebody's going to die on me. I never had that fear before. And I was never coping by future tripping that I might lose somebody and how am I going to handle that? So the homework for this week is to make a list of your what you believe are unhealthy coping mechanisms. Maybe they're like big and way in your face, like maybe like, oh my gosh, I'm getting drunk every single night and this is really bad and I'm causing problems in my family. Or it can be as small as, okay, you know what, Cheri, I also future trip like crazy. But I also want you to write down your healthy coping mechanisms. So for me, I skate. When I put a pair of skates on my feet, I don't think about anything. I'm in the present because I'm trying not to die. I'm trying not to fall or break my wrist because I'm so afraid of breaking my wrist. But when I'm skating, I'm listening to the music and I'm just focusing on being present and skating. One of the books that I really, really like is The Power of Now, I believe is what it's called. That helped me have it helped me develop a lot of coping mechanisms that are healthy, like getting present in the moment, or if something bad happens, instead of wanting to escape that moment, changing the way I look at it and convincing myself that I've accepted that this happened, and in fact, I've asked for it because I want to learn through this journey. So another healthy coping mechanism, getting present and just sitting with my dogs, cuddling my dogs. That's good. Eating ice cream with a friend, going to a frozen yogurt place and decorating the frozen yogurt with all the candy and feeling like a kid again and having a nice conversation with a friend. When I first got into recovery, going to the movie theater was a healthy coping mechanism for me because I needed to pass the time in the evening from end of work day till the sun goes down, because I was really into drinking after work, and if I'm being honest, during work, but definitely after, with happy hours and all of that. So that is the homework this week. Write down a list of your unhealthy coping mechanisms and become aware of those. And when you start to lean towards those, even passive aggressiveness, I can be that way sometimes because it's an instant gratification of being like, and poking somebody like, it feels good in the moment that you were passive aggressive and like, well, I shouldn't say you. For me, sometimes it can feel good in the moment where I'm like, But at the end of the day, all it is prolonging my pain and keeping me from growth and causing more strain in a relationship. So every time I start to see that I'm falling into an unhealthy coping mechanism, I try to remember the list of my healthy coping mechanisms and redirect myself in that direction. So I hope this helps somebody today. We are done with the first month already. Time flies when you're having fun. Time flies when you're healing. Maybe, maybe not. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.